fun. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us on Third Eye Salon. This is a pre-recorded show because God wanted to teach us patience and adaptation today. And some of us were a little bit kicking and screaming at the beginning. So that was definitely a blessing, as our guests would say, because it's a learning opportunity and it's a chance to slow the bleep down and reconnect. So that's what we are doing. And I'll let you know that I'm Kat Udero, and we're so glad that you are here. And if this is your first time, or if this is your repeat offender, we love having you here and love having you being part of our community. Today, we are going to be looking between the veils of NDEs and DNA. That's going to be one of the things we're talking about. We're going to talk about miracles, and we're going to talk about what it is to be able to just let miracles come through you and be a conduit for healing, and how our guest is a heart healer. I like to call him a heart healer, mending people's lives and bodies by channeling unconditional love. So before we introduce our guest, though, I want you to say hello to my friend and our co-host, Linda Coulter-Burge. Linda, God bless you for your patience, your presence, and your navigation today.
Well, thank you. Yes, I don't know about the navigation part because Google says that I don't exist. So actually, no, Google says it doesn't exist. So we'll see what happens here later on. But thank you for patience for all those who are waiting anxiously for our live stream. I really am excited to talk with Luke. And I hope you come back and join us, because I have a feeling we're going to have Luke on again. I can already tell. So then you get a chance to ask questions that are going to come up, I'm sure, from our conversation today. When you see this, please remember to like, share, and subscribe so that those who are on this journey with us can find us easier. And I just want to send my appreciation for all of you and the community we're building on Facebook. So please join us there if you haven't, because we really do have a beautiful community that cares for each other there and explores a lot of possibility. And I think in this world, we all need more possibility. Be sure to look at Luke's information in the description box, because we are going to be adding some amazing things that he's just now sharing with us that we're going to share with you guys as well. And I think the other thing is make sure you watch our event page. So we will have the links there. As you know, we don't share our links within our group because it's private, but we do share our event page, Third Eye Salon events, so that you can share upcoming videos with them and upcoming events with your friends. And that, I would like to welcome Luke.
Thank you for having me.
Luke, it's good you're here. Luke was our eye in the hurricane, where he was calm. He's like, whatever, it's good.
No, I learned from Linda. Linda's calm. Her vibration of calmness just resonates over the whole screen. I like that.
Thank you.
Linda is. Well,
nice.
I'm like, I get going, rev up my motor, and can't be thinking too much. And Linda just be real calm and smooth.
Yeah.
I love it.
She's our anchor. Thank you so much. And also I want to remind you that if you'd like to donate to us, that's also a great thing that helps us with the show in so many ways. So we do have a link below to buy us a virtual coffee, a Ko-Fi. So you're welcome to do that as well. So before we get into Luke's story, we are going to just go over the bio and let you know a little bit about him. So Luke Noske had it all: money, success, family, and freedom, but he didn't know real happiness. At the age of 30, he experienced an NDE after taking medication to ease his intense leg pain, and his whole world turned on its head. Luke's sizable ego was scrambled, if not shattered, and he began a new life of searching for and exploring for the true nature of life, God, and love. He now spends his days showering love on strangers, performing healing miracles, and channeling divine knowing as he speaks into the wounds of people who need to hear his message of unconditional love the most. Luke says he can now see the back end of the matrix, the holographic field that we all reside in. He relates people's NDE experiences back to their DNA and how their unique coding manifests when they cross that great divide back into oneness. So if you are down for hearing about DNA and how that impacts us, how it's connected through the matrix into who we truly are on the other side, I'm really excited about that. So if that excites you or any part of this excites you, please do give us a thumbs up and leave a comment, because that really helps us know what you're thinking and what excites you. So, all right, Mr. Luke, let's hop into it. Let's talk about your Genesis point. Now, I stole Luke I'm stealing a lot of people off of Jeff Marr's podcast, because Jeff has got some amazing people on there.
Yeah.
So Luke was one of them that I was just like, who is this guy? And so I wanted you to talk about your NDE story. We won't probably get into all of those details because they can see it on Jeff Marr's podcast, but we want to make sure people know what your experience was. And then you go. I stop, you go.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me on, and it's definitely awesome, and I just really appreciate it. So back when I was 30 years old, I had a company, and just working and working and working, and I started, this is something I didn't say in the last interview, but I got in a bad wreck like when I was like 28 years old, and I had a really big truck. So that truck pretty much saved me because it destroyed the other vehicle. And so ever since that day, this leg pain started affecting my body, and so I couldn't sleep at night. And so basically 2 years goes by and the pain was just too much. So I went to the doctor, and they kind of thought I was crazy because like they ran all the tests, couldn't find nothing wrong with me. So they gave me this medication that made me high and I took it for 10 days. And I wasn't into drugs, so I went back to him and I was like, dude, I'm high. I've been up for 10 days. I said, you need to give me some Xanax. He's like, I can't give you Xanax. The doctor didn't want to give me Xanax because, he wasn't a doctor that would give me medication, but I begged him for it and he gave me Xanax. So I went home and I probably took 2 pills, I don't know, 10 milligrams or whatever. I can't remember because I haven't taken that stuff in so long. I don't remember the milligrams, but so this is how it all started. Since I was up for 10 days, dude, like just high, wired. And I come home and it's getting late at night and my kids are sleeping in their room. My then wife was in the master bedroom, but I couldn't sleep in there because my leg pain hurt so bad. So I was laying on the couch, and when I took those pills, I just passed out and I was completely gone. And I heard people comment saying this was an outer body experience, not a near death experience. I've had an outer body experience. It's different. I had one 4 years ago. This was an NDE. So I floated up out of my body. And as soon as I came out of my body, and I've said this many times, and if you go watch NDEs and all the experiences out there, it's weird because we're still hooked to that silver cord. We still have a carnal mind reeling from within. But the further we get away from our body, we start losing that reality of the carnal world, and the spiritual realm starts opening up. So once I came out of my body, I looked down at my body and I said, when I came out of my body, I was floating like this. And dude, you just lost all of life on your shoulders. I mean, you just became weightless. You just became like, it's the greatest feeling, like nothing can top it. It's mind-blowing how good this feels. And so you're like, wait a minute, there's something different, and you're bobbing up and down because you're floating. And I kind of tilted a little toward my body, but not all the way. And I was like, oh my God, I'm dead. And it's funny because, I use a lot of biblical stuff, but it says, I never knew you. you're going to say that to your body when you float up out of your body. You're going to say, you know, people use it in terms of like God's going to say, I never knew you. No, that's what you're going to say to your body. You're going to float out and your body's going to be laying on the ground. You're going to say, I never knew you, because you'll never see that body again. It's not even your body. That's why we don't put stock into this life, because we completely separate from all of that stuff. And so anyways, when I was flowing out of my body, I said, oh my God, I'm dead. And then when I was floating around in the living room, I wouldn't say I was floating around. I was just kind of like in one spot. And the first thing I noticed was the whole living room was lit up, but you couldn't see lights. No lights. How can you light up a room with no lights? And all the lighting was different. Like it was like in this reality, we only see the lighting we see because of our carnal mind can only see this. But when you come out of your body, you're no longer under this law of the flesh. So you can now see things you've never seen before. You're open up to everything. So lights just appeared and colors appeared I've never seen before. And just that alone, boy, you love it, right? And so I still had that carnal thinking just a little bit. And my then wife was in the bed in the master bedroom. So I said, oh my God, I'm dead. I got to go let her know. And so my mind was telling me to go through the door, but I just but my body took me right through the wall. And so when I got to her, this is crazy. Like, this is where I'm going to get to, because I've studied near-death experience, and I'll go over this again. I studied, but nobody's ever had my encounter. Nobody's ever had this encounter. So I come up to her, and she's laying on the bed, and she has her hands, she's laying on her back, and her hands are straight on her. So I come in and I take my hands and I say, I'm dead. And I'm literally thinking I can wake her up, because my carnal mind is still reeling. It's not that you have a carnal mind like in the flesh, but you're still tied to that silver cord. And if you don't disconnect from that silver cord, you're not going to move on. And that's probably how I had the veil, but we'll get there. Anyways, I did it like 10 times. I put my hands through her like 10 times. And after the 10th time, I was saying, wake up, her soul comes out of her body. And as soon as your soul leaves your body, you now become a spirit. You're only a soul in the body, because there's only one spirit, the spirit of the world, of everything, right? And so when your soul comes out of the body, you are now a spirit. So I'm not going to say her soul came out of the body, but now I'm looking at her spirit, and her spirit came out of her body in front of me. And so like, let me explain this better. So like, she's laying on the bed like this, and right next to the bed is a little lamp stand, like next to every bed with a lamp, and there's a window behind it. And so when she came out, she came in front of that light, in front of the little lamp stand, and in front of window. She came out in front of it. And when she came out, if you look at like the movie Casper, where they're glowing, you can see through them, it's literally like that, but the coloring was better because it was in the spirit realm, right? And she had this gown on, and she was laying sideways. I couldn't see no feet or anything, nothing like that, just literally like Casper. And the gown had like gold and these colors I'd never seen before. And one thing I remember everything, but I remember looking at this gown, and I said, no human being can make that. Like, it was supernatural, right? And so you have to remember, I came out of my flesh like 30 seconds ago. So I'm losing memory of being in the flesh. So as I'm losing my memory, the whole entire wall disappears behind her. Everything, the lamp, everything disappears. And heaven opens up and I can see right into heaven. So I'm looking at her like, oh, let me explain her a little more. Her face features, you could see her eyes, everything. You could see everything, but you could see right through it. But everything was perfected. I can't explain it. It was perfect. Like if you can imagine perfect and 1,000 times more perfect or 1,000,000,000 times more perfect.
Yeah, so you're looking at her, so it still looks like her. It looks like her, but the most beautiful, perfect version, like the most exalted version you could possibly see
Can't even
of.
explain it.
Yeah.
Can't
Wow.
explain it. You can't explain it. It's like, oh man, like it's like that beautiful. And as I'm looking at her and like, what, like this is amazing. As I'm looking at her, heaven's behind her. So I'm like kind of looking at her and looking at heaven. And but it wasn't like I was looking out the window, because it was like, I mean, obviously there's no window, is heaven behind her and everything disappeared, but I could see everything. Like my eyes were no longer like looking out of a window. My mind knew what was there exactly. So let me explain heaven. So this is what I saw, and you have to remember this. Go and research near-death experiences. Go research them, millions of them. How many of you research? Everybody sees what feels comfortable to them, because when you come out of your body, God or source or light or universe is going to stick you where you're most comfortable, and they're going to say, look, you're home, this is you, you had an awesome life, come on, right? And so the beach, tropical beach, was always my fantasy, like everything I've always wanted. And so, you know, when you see near-death experiences, people die, they always go to where it's comfortable to them. So when it opened up and heaven opened up and the whole wall disappeared, I saw this tropical beach and this sand, and I saw these palm trees, but it was different because it was like every palm tree was perfectly put in the exact spot. Like someone took a palm tree and stuck it here, and then every leaf, and I can't explain this, but every molecule of water was alive. Every single grain of sand was alive. Like you can't explain it. Like how, you know, how do you perceive that? Like, but now thinking about it, on earth, everything's alive. Every leaf, every tree limb, every blade of grass, but we actually stopped that from happening on earth. You know, I like that verse that says on earth as it is in heaven. Like when we're walking down the road, our carnal mind actually destroys all these things because of all the things we're thinking about, and we have no idea things are alive. But anyways, it was like, it is so amazing. I can't explain it. You know, this is heaven, right? But anyways, like I said, the lighting was amazing, and those are the things I saw. And after like looking at this for a minute, I turn and look at her, and her lips move, but it was inside as she talked to me, and she goes, everything's going to be all right. And I woke up gasping for air, and I jumped up out of my couch and ran back. And of course, she's sleeping the exact same way I saw her. And I was like, did you feel that? Did you feel that? I saw you. I saw you. And she's like, I felt somebody tugging on me, but I didn't see what you saw. And so I know there's a reason for this, okay? Because she's in her carnal reality mind, her body mind, okay? You can't bring somebody into the spirit. You can't bring somebody. It says we're seated in heavenly places, meaning we're always in a spirit. We always have a spiritual body 24 hours a day for eternity, but we never go there. And there's no way I can make her go there. Her spirit was there, but she wasn't there. And I was like in shock. And that people asked me that question. They said, like, how did she not experience what you see? And I said, dude, I pondered on that every day for an everyday sense till now. I was always like, why this happened? But now I believe it's because she was not in her spirit mind. She was still in her carnal mind. So her spirit body got to see this. And all of us right now have a spirit mind, a spirit body that we're sitting in right now that's doing its work, doing its whatever, and we're not there right now. And so I got to see it when I had my near death experience.
That's tremendous. Thank you. That's a great download. One of the things I really see that you do, Luke, is that you teach while you're sharing the story. You're not just giving a narrative, but you're unpacking it from these last 10 years of your personal exploration, which, yeah, I think you're a natural teacher at this point. That's why people are being so drawn to you currently. Linda, do you want to hop in with anything that you have in that big download that Luke just gave us?
Yeah, for me, with mine, it was very different because I never saw heaven. I just felt I was in a void. And the love that I felt was beyond all words. And so what you're seeing is very visual. I'm curious about the feelings that you also had during that.
The feeling I had, so like I said, when I came up out of my body and I was kind of like bobbing, it's just like I said, it's like I lost all of life. And you know, when we come on into this body, into the flesh, under this law, the law of life, we get dragged down. And it's funny because like gravity, people look at it such a physical way, but it is spiritual too, because gravity drags us down. And it's funny because when you go up into space, you float around and it's like you popped out of that matrix bubble and you're free. And so people are like, wow. And then their bodies aren't used to it. So their fluids start messing with their minds and they get sick because they're still in the flesh, because they're still thinking with their carnal mind. But I imagine what I felt was 10 times better than a million times better than what they feel in space. But like you said, it's like that feeling is just you can't describe the feeling. It's just like warmth and love and heat and like a blanket's wrapped around you, and it's just paradise. That, like, I always say to people, like, okay, so when I came out of my body, like I got to go see heaven. I got to see it through a view. But just coming into that first outer realm, just coming out of my body, just that alone was heaven. Like, holy cow, there's something else. There's something else. Like, dude, I could have stayed there for eternity just popping out of my body, you know?
Yeah, it's very freeing. What I remember experiencing in mine was just like this relief of the release of the body. That there was just nothingness for me. It was a void, and I was part of that void. And it was just such a relief, and yet just being a part of everything. Like, I think some people have talked about feeling really freaked out when they hit the void because there's nothing there. And for me, it was just absolutely the most beautiful thing that I had ever felt. And yes, I've had that, a body where I have seen other things, and it's just a wild trip. So you mentioned before that it is different than an out of body.
Yeah.
What was can we go into like what the difference for you was?
Yes. So the out of body experience was that quick because I was feeling real good one morning and I was meditating and I was laying on my bed and I was just feeling good. And I'm learning how to lose all feeling in my body. And as soon as I lost all feeling in my body, that's my best meditation. And now I'll give you advice. That's the best thing to do is get in a comfortable place. And first of all, don't ever sit up doing meditation unless you're good at meditating. Lay down where you can lose the weight of your body. The people that sit up are the people that are experienced. And but don't listen to me. I'm just giving you advice because that might be wrong for you, right? Because everybody's different. But so I lay down for meditation because I'm not experienced enough to sit up. Because when I sit up, I feel my carnal mind kicks in. So I was so I was laying down, and I got to the point where I couldn't feel anything. My head, my hands, I couldn't feel. I lost all feeling of my body, and my consciousness came up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm freaking floating. I'm going up. But I kept on going up, going up, going up, and I went through the roof. And as soon as I went through the top of the roof and I saw the sky, I went, oh, and I just came straight back into my body because I got scared. And you know what, that's the crazy thing is, because that's what I always hear people said, as soon as you get scared, you lose it. But the thing about the near-death experience, it's different. It's like, dude, you could have done anything to me and I was ready. Like I was ready. Like this was me. But the outer body experience was a different situation because like the outer body experience was so weird because it's almost like you're in your body, but you're also at two places at once. But the near-death experience, I wasn't. I looked, that flesh was gone. It wasn't me. I had nothing to do with it. All the problems are in that. All the problems of life are dying with that body, and I'm off into La La Land, right? So they're two different things.
Yeah, and it sounds like the difference is that, as you call it, the carnal mind, like when you're having the OBE, your carnal mind is still with you. The ego is still with you.
Ego, yeah.
And when you did the had the near-death experience, it's like that the ego stayed with the body. It didn't stay in your.
Yeah, that's right. And and that's, it's just a crazy experience, and people have different names for it and stuff like that. I use the analogy like with outer body experiences and near-death experience and God, source, light, universe. Has anybody ever heard of a mountain lion? Did you know there's 40 names to a mountain lion? Did you know when I grew up as a kid, I thought a cougar and a puma and a panther were all different cats, but they're all the same because where you're raised as what you know. So people call it this, but it's this, but it's this, but it's that. And, everything is different, but everything's the same. It's so It's hard because people call things like, and so like some people say, well, it's just, it is what it is, right? But it's just, where we grow up is what we hear, and we think one way and then we think the other way, but then it could be the same, but then it could be different. It's just the way we perceive life of where we're growing up and what place we're growing up.
And I agree, because I think that we're all trying to describe in words the indescribable.
Yeah.
So the commonality I've always come back to is the awe. And when we look at something that's beyond words, we're in awe. And you think of the words that we use to describe that realm, and you've got God and awesome and help me out, raw. And I one time just wrote down all the words that had that sound in it.
Dog. Aw.
Dog.
You know what I find interesting?
Dogs are pure love,
Yep.
You know what I find interesting is this. So if you go to ancient texts, like in Hebrew, they weren't allowed to say the name God. And it's funny, and I thought about this, and it's because we're all a piece of God, right? And if we say our name God, it means we're using our ego, and we can't be God because our fruit's bad. Well, that's why they couldn't say the word God. Did you know they weren't allowed to say the word God? They weren't allowed to say his name. They weren't ever allowed.
Yeah, I knew there was a thing with that, and and that does make sense, because as soon as you're talking about something, you're separate from it.
Yep,
Right.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
judgment, it's separation, it's an ego, it's your carnal mind, it's thinking with the flesh and not your spirit or whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it.
So let's talk about that. I want to, unless, Linda, do you have another question?
No, I was just
Yeah.
going to say
Okay.
every time we label something, we create separation.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. There you
You know,
go.
one thing real quick, like biggest thing I've learned in the last couple years is and I have to teach myself this constantly. Never say Christianity, never say Hinduism, never say atheist, never say one name, because as soon as I say that name, I separate myself from that. And so it's an ongoing learning experience for me. I don't even like to say Western religion, and I still get caught saying that because we're all, you know, there. I go back to the Bible, which you can go to any of the ancient books and they're all going to say the same thing. But Jesus says, either you're for me or against me, or you gather or you scatter. What he's saying is this: either your love or your hate. There's no in between. There's nothing else that exists.
Wow. Wow. All right. This is what I want to do, because you keep dropping these truth bombs. And I want to talk about, because there are people who, you had like a 30-second out of body experience, right? Like or a near-death experience. Like it wasn't something where you were in a coma for a month or a day or an hour. It was brief. And yet, and on this, like you didn't even like go meet Jesus, or like you didn't go walk through heaven. Like you got a glimpse of heaven. You pulled your wife out of her body, which is miraculous in and of itself, but then you pop back into your body. And so it's like, how did that Luke, who just had his toe, dipped his toe on the other side, become this man who now is like interpreting scriptures from this place of to me, it's like language is always, there might be things that people still trip over, like carnal mind, for example, but you're doing things right. You're just basically doing this in such a way where it's like you're breaking it down so it's accessible, and it's out of judgment, it's in flow, and it's like you're speaking this divine knowing and decrypting this language that we have that's been distorted and twisted, for various purpose and intent, but the truth of it's still there. How did you become that guy now?
That's a long story, but
yeah, but it was 10 years, but
I'll
give us some
start.
Yeah, okay, what are the punch points where you're like,
okay. So this is the biggest thing. First of all, when I had my near-death experience, this was the first thing. It changed me a little. It changed me a little to the point where I was reading near-death experiences every day. Boy, I must have read 30 of them the next day, or that day through the next day. And then hundreds and thousands through the next 10 years. So then I'm like, wow, people get to meet God. People get to meet Jesus. People get to meet Buddha. People get to meet the light, the source. And I'm like, then that's where my life changed, is when I was 30. I turned 40, 10 years, and I had that experience face to face with that God figure on the throne. And we can get to that story, but let me just say something. So when I had that encounter, which I haven't spoke about yet, when I had that encounter, I turned into religion. Okay. So when I was studying religion, what do? I go to church, right? And so you go to church, and I always remember this verse from when I was a little kid, and I say it constantly. It says, you know a man by his fruits. And so when you go to church and you see someone on stage, and you from any religion, and you smell and see that fruit, you're like, man, that's not good fruit. What's going on? If that fruit's not good and he believes in that, that means there's something that's crooked around here, and I got to go find out what the problem is. So what I did is I took I was, at the time, I started reading the Bible before I got into all the other ancient books, which I read through all of them. And I went back to Hebrew, back to pictograph, back to the very beginning. I'm like, wait a minute. This does not say what that says. This verse, wait a minute. This verse was interpreted in the 4th century from Constantine. And okay, So then I broke down the Bible to the T. It's soul, spirit, and flesh. There's only three things in this world. Everything runs by three. Colors run by three. Our DNA, electricity. Electricity has hot, neutral, and ground. Spirit, soul, and ground. That's all that runs us. We're nothing but electricity. We got 4 battery packs in our body. So there's only 3 colors. Our a proton, neutron, electron. Our DNA has 3 3 things that go with it. I can't remember the names, right? But anyways, everything's in 3. And so I'm like, okay, there's only 3 things in this world. Everything else is a delusion. So we have the spirit realm, and we have our soul, and we have our flesh. So once I figured out that there was only 3 things in this whole entire world, there's nothing else. You can tell me about anything else, and it's just a delusion in your head. I went back to like the Hinduism and all the ancient scriptures, and it was everything came to this. Come into your body, being under the law of Moses, or whatever you call it in Hindu, crucify this flesh so you can be free in the spirit realm. That's the only reason we're here in life. And everything follows that pattern. So once you find that pattern, you're free because you know the truth about everything. And I can take every scripture in the Bible, Hinduism, the ancient texts, and I can show you that every scripture has 3 things in it: soul, spirit, and flesh. That's all that's in it. And I know that's kind of like hard to explain, but I want to actually have a school because it frees you from life. Because everything, look, if I'm looking at this poster right here, that's just an imagination, because that's going to dissolve and be gone. It's not there. It's just there in our reality right now, but it's not your reality of eternity. It's good. It's everything is just being perceived like near-death experience. Near-death experiences when you die, like I said, you go to where your frequency was at the time. And so some people meet Jesus, or they meet some light, or it's because it's the way their DNA is kind of like tethered to their frequency and their energy and their vibration, because that's all we are. Is that too much or a little deep?
No. I think you're hitting it. I just think you're a really great teacher, honestly. So
I thought you were going to say something else. I was like, I don't look at myself like that. I do in a way, but it's just, can I say something real fast? So when I went on this journey, I have books and books of knowledge that nobody has ever found before. Mm-hmm. And I stuffed this all in this head right here. And I got this ego because nobody knew what I knew, right? And I was seeing all these miracles after I saw God, on the throne, and I had my supernatural encounter. And as soon as that stuff started getting shoved into here, it might have been truth, but nothing's truth if it ain't love. And as soon as I shoved all this information that nobody knew, I started seeing my miracles dwindle down. I saw my ego going up. And so I spent the last year destroying all that knowledge. Like a year ago, if you would have talked to me, I would have exploded with all this stuff. So I spent the last year trying to take all this knowledge and turning it into love, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that you need.
Okay, so there's just so much every time. Okay, so what I want to ask then, did you have a thing where you saw God that was not related to your near-death experience?
Yeah. So when I was 40 years old, I was, and this is the story. Okay. Do you want me to tell it?
I do, and here's the deal. What I want to get to is you being able to. It's such a big story. You probably have to write a book, because it's like the bit of you being able to be a conduit for miracles, but you're saying that even after you were being a conduit for miracles, you still had another encounter of God after that, where it was like, okay, you're operating out of ego, you're trying to stuff all this knowledge in your head, you think that's you now, and it's not. So
yeah. Oh man, I've had so much encounters. Like Like I walk around every day and I'm like, I'm looking at all these people, and I'm not doing this with an ego, or I'm not saying this in a negative way. I'm like, why have I, like, I could go on for 3 hours, and these encounters are real. I have people who can vouch for me. My daughter says, why, when you're on Jeff Morrow's show, why didn't you tell them that encounter changed my life? Why didn't you tell them that my life was changed from what happened to you? And I was like, I don't know. I have too much to say. Like, I can't fit it all in, Madison, and my son was part of it. And I have friends now and testimonies, but so let's just real quickly, I'll make this quick. So
It's all good.
with the God thing. Okay. So I was like wanting to see God. Like, I was starting to go through depression. I was starting to hate my job, not knowing how blessed I am and how amazing life is, because I haven't experienced the supernatural. I experienced a near-death experience, but if you go and watch all the near-death experience people, it doesn't change. It changes their life to know that love's the way, but it doesn't change their life. That's why a lot of them are still like, I watched a near-death experience the other day where the guy goes, he's like, I want to find more people that are on my level. I'm like, no, you want to find more lost people so you can love the hell out of them, dude. That you don't need to go find people like you. You need to go find the people that are lonely and sad and hurt and don't know nothing because they need you. That's what I was like. So it's like, and so that's my motive. Like, I don't need people to be around and be sorrow and look what I went through and I went through the same thing. No, man, like, go show me somebody that's sad right now, right? And so, like, anyways, my God encounter, I was going to sleep one night, and every day I was like, dude, I gotta have an encounter with God. I haven't. And remember this, I'm in this religious setting. I'm going to church. My frequency, my DNA is coping with Christianity, okay, which I love so much because it was one of the greatest things that I ever was a part of when I was a part of it. Now I'm a part of everything. In 2 Corinthians chapter 2, it says that Paul became all things. He became Christian. He became a Jew, but not under the law. He became Hindu. He became a drunk, just to bring unconditional love to everybody. And Jesus, God in Genesis 2:17, in Genesis 2, it says that Adam can go eat off every tree, but not the tree of good and evil. He can go be part of every single group, but never be part of one group. That's what that says. Because as soon as you're part of one group, you're judging another group, but you can be part of all groups.
Oh my God. That translates that into a different way, where it's the tree of knowledge is more like the tree of separation.
Separation, yeah. It's when you start using your carnal mind, because as soon as you say you're Hindu or Buddha or Christian, you have just used your carnal mind, which is it says in Romans 7:5 that using your carnal mind leads to death. Wow. Not breaking out of this matrix.
Yes, and that's, oh God, okay, so this is the problem. You keep, because then that brings us into the matrix part of it, but I want to hold off to that part. I want to come back to the matrix part of it. That's exactly right, though, because that's what it's been in my face a lot lately, too. So I wanted to ask you.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. You have so much to give, and you just have so much love. It's
I do. I mean, dude, it's like you when I learn something every day. I remember when I was like got a worm knowledge review, I was like, oh, this guy's just like a boss, like he has to have everything in a row. But then when you were talking to me and you said some things, I was like, everybody's so amazing. Like, dude, he wasn't trying to come at me. He was trying to be himself. And I learned so much from that, because I don't run into people so organized as you. And I loved it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to learn from this. And I actually I remember when you emailed me and I was like, this is so amazing, dude. I'm like, people are just getting more amazing every day. Like, this person over here is this way, this person's this way, I'm my way, and it's like that. I just want to grab people and be like, dude, do you know how amazing you are? Like, you have things I don't have. And imagine if we all made a big circle and held hands, and we all used what we knew, what we had as a gift. We would all have everything. So because you had what you had, you made me look better because of your talent. And I was like, dude, this guy's making me look good. He did something I can't even do,
I'm just showing how good you actually look. That's all I'm doing.
No.
So yeah. So the thing I want to get to then in this is, where did you go from NDE guy, 30-second NDE guy? Because like you said, it's true. Other people have these experiences and it can haunt them where they're just like, I just miss home and I just want to go home, but they won't let me go home yet. And I'm not making fun because, oh my God, I've lived that without having an NDE experience. I've lived that. And so what is the difference of going from 30-second NDE experience to miracles are happening through me, your hip is healed, you don't have cancer now?
Yeah. So it's funny because 1 Peter 2:11 says, I urge you as aliens and strangers to not dwell on fleshly desires that rage against the soul. Meaning when we're on this earth, we're not of this earth. We're from another place. And to not let this flesh dwell us, So when people say that, like, our home is somewhere else, it is somewhere else. But right now, this is our home. And this is a really good, happy place we're supposed to be at. But so I had my encounter with God and I saw him on the throne, and I was getting word of knowledge, like my daughter was going to get in a car wreck. And that was the very first time that I really got a word of knowledge. So let me backtrack. I went to bed one night.
What's a word of knowledge?
Okay. Word of knowledge is, people call it psychic, or I don't know what other words people call it. There's so much other things. It's
clairaudient, clairsentience.
Let's come back to 40 nicknames in a mountain lion. Same thing.
Exactly.
There's all these. I call word of knowledge because I come from the Christian religion, but people call it psychic, clairvoyance, whatever. They're all identical. I heard download about my daughter, and it's okay. So I'm going to bed at night and I heard this, oh, your daughter's gonna get a flat tire. And I was like, oh my God. And I was so pissed off. I was actually fighting with his voice. So the next morning I get up. No, I fought with his voice for 3 days. Finally, I got up a third day or something like that. And I was like, Madison, we're going to get all your stuff done for your flat tire, and I didn't tell her she's going to get a flat tire, but I got her jack and everything ready. So that night, after I got it ready, she got a flat tire. And then another day goes by, and I'm kind of stressed out, just real stressed out, right? And I walk out of my front door and I start screaming at the top of my lungs, saying, people are seeing God, so why can't I see God? And I was thinking of like maybe light or a hurricane twisting in and seeing some other light or a ball of light. I wasn't even thinking about like seeing like Jesus or God or I was just thinking, like, what does God look like, right? I didn't have an exact description. I was just wanting to see something. So I go out my front door and I start screaming more louder than you can imagine. Like, I've never screamed this loud over the neighborhood. And I screamed for 20 minutes because I was so stressed out. And a lot of things were going on in my life. I didn't know my identity. I didn't know what, I didn't, so anyways, I just got tired of screaming, and I put my head down like this, and I start walking toward my front door, and something picks up my head like this, and this peace rushes down through my body, like peace. And I saw this cloud, like a cloud. And as soon as I saw it, snap of a finger, this God appeared you know how you have a dining room table and you have the 4 chairs, 2 on each side, and then you have the king's chair on the side? It's not like a king, like a king would sit on it. It's just the big chair. There was a God on the throne on that chair, and it was a real encounter. Like, guys, I'm telling you, like, I hate talking about this encounter because people think you're delusional, but it was so real. I could, just like my then wife, I could see every single mark through it, all of his everything, his eyes, his mouth, his and I said this in an interview, and I'll say this a million times. I've watched hundreds of people say, it's not like you're just going to see a God on the throne with big white hair. And when I see that, I put my head down every time I hear, and like, oh my God, that's what I saw. And I laugh, dude. And I'm like, dude, I'm just me. And if you go on Google, if you Google God on the throne on Google, it'll literally look just like that. And I was like, what? These people have my encounter or something? Like, because I Googled it about a year later. A year later, I really started asking questions like, what the hell? But anyways, this was real. I saw it. It was like you and I. It was 1,000 feet tall, and it had the Bible half open. And it's funny, the Bible was half open. I always thought about that. It's like, maybe my life is half gone or whatever, but no, because one side soul and one side spirit, and it had to be exactly half open. And the gray hair stands for purity and my DNA, and that's who I am. And that's my soul. And you know what? In the Bible, Moses, when he came down the mountain, the tablet had to break in half. Why? Because the first 5 commandments were spirit, and the second 5 were soul, and it had to split in half to give to the people at the bottom of the mountain because they represented the flesh. And so it had to break in half to give it to it. So for him to give me that message, that book had to be in half. It had to be split halfway, because there's only 3 things in this world: spirit, soul, and flesh. And that's why everything goes in 3. But so I saw that encounter, and I was like, I'm going to get my camera. And this voice said, no, you're not. And then I bowed on my knees. I don't know why. And this voice said, get up. You don't bow to me. And so I got up, and then I sat there, and I was getting this download. Like, I was like, I couldn't handle this. All this information was coming in me, and I understand the information now. It's all the information I've been given. Like, things just started clicking, and miracles started clicking, and I was seeing things I've never seen before. And so anyway, so all that ended, which was an amazing experience, and it really happened. It was not clouds, it wasn't smoke, it was real. Yeah. And he was 1,000 feet. He was as tall as the sky, and the book had to be 10,000 feet tall. It was that big. He took up the whole, it was amazing. And so the next night, I told my kids, I said, what happened to you? What happened to you? And they're like, nothing, Dad, nothing. And so I walk outside, and I said, I thought you were coming to help my kids too, but I didn't even say nothing. It was like supernatural. He goes, I did. And he goes, no, don't you? He goes, I did. Don't you trust me? But it was weird, because when I said it, I didn't say it. And when he said it, he didn't say it. It was like supernatural. It just happened. Like we don't, like, it was not like normal communication. And then my body heated up, and I was like, oh, everything's good. And so that night, my daughter calls me. I didn't get to that because I get going. But for the last 4 days before I saw God, after the flat tire, this voice came to me and said, your daughter is going to get in a wreck. Your daughter is going to get in a wreck. And I fought with this voice for 3 or 4 days. This was before my God encounter. I just skipped on it. I'm sorry, because I get going too much. But
it's also in your Jeff Mara podcast. Those 2 things are in your Jeff Mara podcast. Yeah.
I like to say this because this is a huge thing. This is what this was a learning experience. When I had this, this voice came to me at night and said, your daughter is going to get in a wreck. For 3 or 4 nights, I was fighting with this voice. I was like, I'm going to kick her butt. I can't believe she's going to get in a wreck. And after the 4th night, this voice goes, why don't you just love her? And then my body heated up again. Like, I kept on having these experiences, and I was like, and then I got a vision of how to love her, because she was out 2 a.m. She's like 16 years old. My daughter was a party person, right? In her little
Yeah.
BMW, and
Yeah,
cruise
and
around.
just to say real quick, because the voice said I just know this from your podcast before, when this happens, why don't you just love her?
Yeah,
It wasn't like, it was like, here's your moment of when it happens to show up in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh my God, show up in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this whole thing about your body heating up, because that seems like a realignment of your physical vessel,
Mm-hmm.
some higher attunement. That's how I feel that is going on.
Yeah, and it's like when you talk about the Kundalini or you talk about the Holy Spirit, let's go back to the 40 nicknames a lion has. It's all the same thing. The chakras, the Holy Spirit, it's all the same things. I use this analogy and I hate skipping around, but imagine the biggest mountain in the world, guys, the biggest mountain over in, India over there. And people from all cultures, all ethnic groups, all religions are climbing up all four sides, right? All races. But when they get to the top, they become one, and nothing else matters but them. And that's how life is. We're all climbing up a different side. And we all have, see, when they're climbing, they're in their own groups. But when they get to the top, it's not about race. It's not about color. They're hugging each other, loving each other, taking pictures with each other, and they become one. And that's just the same. We're all climbing up a different side.
Wow,
anyway,
that's a great physical representation. I want Linda to hop in. Miss Linda, I'm going to step away for a minute, and I just want you to hop in with anything that you might be going through. Is that okay? Do you mind? You're muted, my love.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
I was thinking about our previous part of this discussion where you talked about, our vision of heaven is in our DNA and our life experience and our expectations. And I'm curious if you feel the same way because you have the Christian background, if God showed up to you in that form, because that's the form you expected to see.
Yeah, I was watching a near-death experience the other day, and the lady said she had a near-death experience when she was a kid. When she was a kid, she saw Jesus, but then she went on to a different. There's a verse in the Old Testament that says we were born. God created us upright, perfect, but we went on to our own religious schemes. And it's crazy because we just go and create our own reality, create our own life, which is good. It's awesome. It's amazing. But like this lady saw Jesus when she was young, but then when she got older, she had a different outlook in life. And she didn't see Jesus no more. She saw a light. And so I believe, and I told Kat this one time, I was like, there's people that are in the Christian religion that have an encounter with Buddha, but then they go and seek out Buddha. It's because their frequency, their DNA wasn't aligned with that culture at the time, and they were getting yanked away to where they feel more comfortable. Now, that doesn't mean dividing. Before we know who we are, we have to get comfortable. It's not like, oh, go and be part of this because you're part of this. No, go be part of this because this is the way your route is. But when in Hebrews 6:1, it says this: when you know your identity, leave the teachings of Jesus Christ. It says, when you know your identity, you are no longer under this religious scheme. And that's with every religion. So I saw what my DNA, my frequency vibrated to. And that's why I saw that God figure on the throne. And I wanted to keep on going because the day after I saw that God figure on the throne, my daughter called me at 2 a.m. She got in her car wreck. So I told my son, I said, go get in the car with me. Madison got in a wreck. Halfway, this was crazy, guys. This is so crazy because God told me he did what he did. He took care of this situation. My son was a gamer 24 hours a day. And halfway to the wreck, and remember this is our Christian frequency right now. So this is what we're going to have. Things have changed since then. Now I become all things. But at the time, I was in this Christian frequency, and so was my son. My son, halfway to the wreck, just starts preaching and starts talking about God and starts like he had no idea what I was going through. Nothing. I never told him anything. So this is what's crazy. I get to the wreck. The tow truck has to take my daughter's car. My daughter's car gets, I guess, towed. I can't remember exactly what happened to it. But when she's driving home, she said to me, after my son has already like preaching and talking about God this whole entire time to the wreck, my daughter goes, Dad, I need to get right. I'm not doing right. I got to follow God or something. So she has a dream for 3 nights in a row right after that to break up with her boyfriend because she with God. And then my son for 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks, every second, he quit all of his video games, all kids' life. And he watched, like, he went and bought a Bible. He went and watched every single religious thing from all the religions for 4 straight weeks, 3.5 straight weeks. And I had a bad cussing problem. I was like, F this, F that. And I cussed every single word my whole life. And he would be in my ear and he'd be like, a man living in the spirit wouldn't need to talk like that. And I quit all those bad habits because of him. And 4 weeks after, I became a better person, he kind of zoned back into his life. And so my daughter changed, my son changed, and it was a crazy experience. And that's the proof that I saw what I saw. But the thing is as we go further in this, a month later, I started really watching religion of all religions. And that's when I said the fruit. Remember, I kind of skipped all this, but we went and saw the fruit of the people who were on stage. And I was like, wait a minute, what I was downloaded enough information to know that those are awesome people, but their fruit isn't good. And so I started asking questions. And I remember one day I looked up at the sky and I'm going to say this not in judgment, because I love Christianity. I love it. I love Hinduism. I love everything. But I looked up at the sky. I'm going to tell you exactly what I said. I said, God, if you're the God of Christianity, I'd rather go to hell. Because the only thing I knew was religion, right? And the second after that, I got onto YouTube and there was this man on YouTube, and I'm not going to say his name, I'm going to tell you what he said. But as soon as I heard him talk, like something clicked in my head and said, oh my God, you're love. And then I had another encounter. And then that's, as soon as I had that encounter, the next night, was when I heard my first voice about praying. And so the next night I'm in my bed and I'm about to take some painkillers. And this voice says, don't take those painkillers. Go have your son pray for you. You have to remember, I've never prayed in my life. My kids never prayed. I don't know anything about praying. And I said, no. And I fought with this voice for 5 minutes. I fight like tooth and nail with these voices, dude, because I have me and that thing's just is on a different page than me. So if someone says, oh, you can't talk like that. Yeah, you can. You be whoever you want, dude. You're loved either way, right? Anyways, so this voice was, I fought with his voice for 5-10 minutes. And finally I said, you know what? I'll go in and have my son pray for me. And after that, I'll take my painkillers and I'll know that this is all delusional. But this was a voice. I have the luxury to hear it in some other, without, it's not my voice, it's somebody else talking to me. So I walk into, because this had to be a real voice, because I would have never done this if it was my voice. So I walk into my son's room. I remember this so clearly. I said, you have to pray for my legs because because this voice told me you have to. My son goes, shut up, dude. I'm not going to pray for your legs, right? And because he's already out of that phase that he was in for 4 weeks, because it was like a month and a half later. And anyway, so I'm like talking to him and I'm like, no, you have to. And he goes, fine. He said, what do I say? I say, just say be healed. And I said, God, heal his legs and his body. And okay, so he does that, right? And I immediately lose all feeling in my legs, all feelings. So I already felt good, but I was like, wow, that's mine. That's my mind. You know what? I know this is my mind. So I'm just going to go, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. I'm going to go lay on my bed and I'm going to take my painkillers. And then after that 5 minutes, just to let this delusional thing inside of me wear off. So I go and lay in my bed. And as soon as I lay down, my body gets dipped in this dry hot tub. And I was like, what the freak is going on? And then I start doing this. Abba Shidiaka Laba Shaba Baba Baba Rababaka Yaba Baba Baba, which now I know is tongues in Christianity, but if you go to other parts of the world, they call it other things. And so, and I didn't even know anything about stuff like that back then. Okay, this is all new to me. And I can tell you why this happened. This happened because I was dumb. I was like a child. I was hungry and I didn't have all this ego and knowledge trying to tell everybody everything. And when you're dumb, it's Jesus says you have to come like a child to enter the kingdom of heaven. When you put away all that BS, that knowledge that tries to run the world, you get the privilege of the kingdom. It says, there's a Bible verse that says the prostitutes and the tax collectors will break out of the matrix before you do.
Wow.
So that's a Bible verse in Matthew 21:31. Anyway.
That's awesome. You're just breaking it down so good. You're breaking it down so good. All right. So go ahead and
let me real quick.
Yep.
I'm almost done. So I'm laying in my bed and I couldn't sleep at that time because I had my encounter with God a month and a half ago, and my mind was still reruling this every day, all day long. And so I just slept like a baby. And I woke up, and as soon as I woke up, I was like, healing is real. And I have to backtrack for 2 seconds. After I had my encounter with God, it was about 2 days later, I was hooked on Lyrica for my leg problems and hooked on anxiety medicine. Lyrica is the hardest drug in the world to come off of. If I did not have it by the next morning, I would shake like a crackhead and I'd cry, sweat, heat, and I'd throw up and I'd curl up like a ball. And I had this encounter straight with God. And he says, you don't ever go to the doctor and you get off those medications and trust me and you'll be healed. And I had no withdrawals. Never went to the doctor, and I was healed in 1 day. The only reason I was healed in 1 day because I went the next day without taking it, and I was completely healed, and I never had to go back again. No, what's even crazier? I didn't take drugs at that time. I didn't take drugs, and they said I failed the drug test at the doctor the month before the seeing God on the throne, which I don't take drugs. I haven't taken them since I was a little kid, like teenager, and they wouldn't allow me to come get my medication again from the doctor, but I had enough to get by. And I'm like, wow, how did all this work out? Perfect.
Yeah.
There's all these things that just fit like a puzzle, and so so that's a thing. And so I wake up the next morning from that situation, and that's when I see my first healing.
All right, cool. So we're going to talk about healing. We're going to talk about miracles. I want to get into that. I want to make sure we also talk about DNA and how you perceive DNA and how that relates to the back end of the matrix. Because what you've done you've done this so well and with such passion is to break down the walls. You're speaking in tongues, aka speaking light language. Someone else might call it something else. And so it's one of those things where you just don't have any defense against whatever you want to call it. If you wanted to call it channeling or whatever, you're like, I'm good for it, whatever, like it doesn't matter to you. And it's that in and of itself is so healing, I feel like, because it is this time of reunification and for all of us to drop our religion but at the same time, not to just drop religion, but I would say to transcend it. It's like allow religion. What I'm seeing is this pattern of religion being amplified and transcended, and the doors breaking open so that the religions start touching each other on the top of that mountain, just like you're saying.
look at this real quick. Like people say this, they say, well, you're so religious. Look at that Christianity or whatever. Like if someone said something like that, I'm like, well, look at you when you went into meditation today. You have to have your candles in the right spot. You have to do the right breathing technique. There's no difference. It's all religion.
Mm.
That's all imagination, dude. You know what I'm saying? There's no difference between that of Christianity, Catholicism, or Hinduism, or whatever, dude. Or if you meditate in a certain way, that's all under the law of life, which is our carnal mind. And that's what we come into. There's a verse in Job 5:6-7 says, trouble don't come from the dirt, nor evil come from the dust, but man is born into trouble like sparks flying upwards. But I had a vision of this. Okay, I got a vision. That's how I know this verse. As soon as our soul comes into our body, it connects with the carnal mind like sparks flying upwards. Our flesh isn't bad. Our flesh is like a car. Our soul is driving. If your car wrecks, your car wasn't bad. You know what I'm saying? And we're supposed to work like a car with, that, like it should be all one. You should have the compute, everything should work as one, but we don't do that. We fight with each other. We don't want to live spirit one day. We want to live in the ego the next day, and that's why I like that verse says, when a house is divided against itself, that house cannot stand. Because when your soul and your spirit are fighting with each other, you have horrible days because you don't want to connect with your consciousness. You want to live out of your ego.
Yeah, nailing
and
it.
That's what it is.
So,
with it is like if we want to be way too organized or maybe a little too relaxed, we have to be balanced, or else we start tugging on each other like that. Our bodies do. We have a war from within, and that's 100%. What creates a lot of havoc.
That's what I was experiencing this morning, for sure. So to talk about DNA, when did you search for, let's just change gears here. Talk to me about when you started to discover the spirit, that DNA is the spiritual link between the body and the universe, or the oneness. It's like that. Tell me, or how you see it. That's how I'm saying it.
So like, I really can't get too deep in it, but I'm going to say a little bit, because you have to remember my background first is the Bible. And then I went to all the other ancient books. And then when I realized that the world is only the world, the spirit realm, and then we have our soul inside our flesh, and then we turn back to our spirit when we believe in our identity, I started being like, wow, like the Bible teaches this word for word. Then I go to Hinduism, like their books teach this word for, and then I was watching this one spiritual teacher. He was reading this ancient book from 10,000 years ago. It's called The Oldest One. And he was reading just a spiritual teacher, no religion, no nothing. And he's reading it to a crowd because he has a class and he's on TV and he's reading this. And I start hearing him read this book, and I could put every Bible verse to every single thing he said. And then I was like, wait a minute, every single book in the world comes from the same book. They're just broken up from, like a mountain lion.
Like every religious, you're saying every religious book.
Everybody came and took a piece of what they wanted and broke it down into their culture. Because there can only be one. It says there's only one spirit. That's it. There's only one. There can't be multiple. Everything has to come from the same place. And so when I read that, I started reading through all the spiritual books, and I got to this verse that really opened my eyes in the Old Testament. And Jacob went to sleep, and a ladder extended from heaven to earth, and he laid down on a rock, which is God, which is unconditional love. And when he laid on a rock, which is unconditional love, The ladder extended from heaven to earth, and two angels came up and down it. Our DNA chromosomes have two angels that go up and down 24 hours a day. And our chromosomes extend when our frequency of love is unconditional love. And then it says this, it says the word of God. It says this, it says heaven and earth was, so if you break down the word of God, it actually translates into our DNA, which is information. And it says heaven and earth will pass away, but God's word will never pass away. Now it's like, wait a minute, heaven and earth will pass away, but our DNA will last forever. And so when Jacob was in that environment, his DNA was the only thing that connected him from heaven to earth, because it extended. And so I started to break down all the books of all the old ancient books, and our DNA was in every one of them. And so you can go to verse and verse and verse, and you can go through all these verses. And I believe that those books are our DNA, because when you break them down, they're our DNA. So I started realizing, I was like, wait a minute, people are having all these spiritual encounters. They're seeing Jesus, they're seeing Buddha, they're seeing the light, but wait, where are they sitting in their life? Oh, look, since we're energy and frequency, and our DNA is the only thing that stretches from heaven to earth, they're only seeing what their vibration allows them to see. And so I started breaking down all this stuff. It goes way deeper than this. This is deep, deep, deep. I can't go any deeper because that's for a school itself.
Yeah, I mean, this is delicious. This is because this is answering so many things. It's all the, anyway. So I wanted to ask you, so you were saying that you
get caught separating.
Wait, let me finish. You let me finish. So you were saying that, like, when you're reading through these different spiritual books, that you were seeing the language, even though they're saying different language,
identical.
Like one is the word of God, and to you, you're seeing that as the DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And so this other book says this, and you're saying, oh, that's also another term for the DNA.
So
it's your ability. That's one of the gifts you were given in your awakening, is like being able to read through the words and see the actual truth behind the words. And so you're able to pierce into each one of these books and then say, oh, these are all just like all the people walking up to the mountaintop. This is like the people walking back down from the mountaintop and bringing their piece of the mountaintop into their separate
check out this
experience.
So like, look at this, like Jesus, okay, he was born, right? He was born, and he comes down he had to go down into Egypt. Why? Because Jesus had to come and live in the flesh. The pharaohs back in Egypt in the Old Testament had a snake on their head because it represents serpent, which is our carnal mind. Moses had to destroy one of the army dudes, right? One of the Egyptians, to have the encounter in the burning bush. He had to crucify his flesh to see God. Well, every single ancient book is the exact same way. It's all about crucifying this flesh. It's not crucifying in a bad way, but not letting our ego run our life, so we can then be in the spirit realm. And if you go back to all the ancient books, they all say the exact same thing. They just say it a little differently because they put their own spin on it.
It's interesting because I'm relating this back to Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yeah, I love him.
Yes, because he talks about, it's the same thing where he talks about, like, you have to be, he's saying you're going to have a new body, which is another way of saying born again. It's like you're going to go into the quantum field. You're going to encounter oneness, and the way that you get the path to doing that is you have to say no to your body, the carnal, which, the ego is part of the carnal physical body. I'm just putting these things together with the language we're using today. Like, that is the part that has to be crucified, i.e. saying no to it, saying, no, I know that you want to do that, but I'm saying no. I'm saying yes to this. My spirit's being called to do this. I know that you want to do this. I'm saying no. And that's the crucifixion, as it were, of the body, because the body no longer gets to be the body / carnal mind, no longer gets to be the director anymore.
Yeah, it's like, for instance, in your case, you like to have all your eggs in all your everything in line, right? You can still be that person, but you have to learn how to be relaxed when you do it. And it never gets to you.
Calling me out. Calling me out.
No, it's the same thing for me.
It's
Like
true.
whatever
It's
I
true.
do, whatever Linda does,
True.
whatever, every single one of us has our bad pet peeves where it's not bad, but it's the thing that gets us. And we have to learn to be like, wait a minute, you know, I can do this in peace. I can do this in love. I can do this with, it's like watch a basketball, like watch a sports game back in the days when we were younger and we watched sports, right? And you watch two teams playing each other and you're like, beat them, score a goal. Try watching those games and being in the heads of every single player and voting for every single person and watch the game at the same time.
That's so beautiful. Linda, do you want to hop in while you can?
He's just reflecting the feelings that I have, and there's the judgment in me that comes up that's like, oh, you fail so many times. We're human, and that is a judge that we have on ourselves. But I think the striving that we have is just that you mentioned it. Love is the religion. Love is where it's all coming from. All the religions, for me, are our attempt to create those rules to get there, to teach people to be good, to, you know, whatever that is. And I think that for me, every time a man touches those words, we put our taint on it, right? We taint it. We
don't put our taint on it. We taint it. Right.
Well, we put our taint on it.
Oh my God.
That's something else, Linda. That's something else.
Something else? No, what I know, but you know, we really, literally, by touching it, alter it.
I have an encounter.
Because we're trying to put it into words.
I got to tell you this encounter. This helped change my life. Okay. So this is when I'm so sorry I kept on saying Christianity, Hinduism, because when either you love or you hate, there's no in between. Yeah. We're all the same. But when I was in religious state of mind back when I was going through all these learning processes, I had another supernatural encounter, which I've had many, but this is one of them. This was an awesome one, man. So I'm sitting in bed and I'm laying down. I remember exactly how I'm laying. I'm laying sideways, and I had this negative thinking in my head. And I'm going to tell you who I was judging, okay? Which I would never judge anymore because I love them. I was judging Oprah because I was hearing, oh, this is so stupid. But I was judging Oprah, and I was judging this mega church in New York, this big mega church, Hillside or whatever church. And I was judging them because I was in a circle. See the circle? I was in a circle, right? And I was stuck in the circle. I was judging them, and I'm laying down. This supernatural encounter is one of my encounters that changed my life. And I'm laying there, and this voice says, "Only I know their hearts, you don't." Literally audible. And I went, what? And then my phone turned on by itself. Then the Bible popped on to a verse in Romans audibly and said, this is all it said. You'll be judged the way you judge others. And then I saw visions go through my head of cultures all the way back to the very beginning. And he said, all doctrines were created from judgment. And it blew my mind.
Whoa.
That was one of my encounters. It was one of my encounters. I'm telling you, I've had crazy encounters.
I know.
That's why I have so much love in my heart.
All judgment, say it again. All judgment.
All doctrines were created from judgment.
All doctrines were created from judgment.
Yeah, because they were in church and they were like, I don't believe that. But why not just believe it in love? Because it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 that love believes all things. Because you know what love is? Love is, just imagine an angel on the outside of my body. Imagine an angel, and I'm sitting here being a little rascal. What's the angel going to do? He's going to look at me with a smile, and he's going to love me no matter what I do, no matter what I think. He's going to love me. He's never going to doubt or ask questions.
Wow.
I think this is such an important message for us during this time,
Oh my
because
God.
I'm really seeing this bifurcation of separateness and judgment happening.
Mhm.
And for me, it's that pendulum swinging so far to one side that we're almost pushing it there so that it comes back. Like we have to see the full extent of what it's like for that separateness in order to choose the love.
I use this, that what I just said, I use it as a thing. I said, it could you, when two people are getting an argument, or you're getting into an argument with somebody, imagine yourself floating up above the argument and turning into an angel and looking down at those two people. You would be like, what are they arguing about? Like, and you would love that other person, because you wouldn't see all the chaos, because you wouldn't be in your carnal mind. And like I said, if you have an angel next to you, and it doesn't matter what you do, that's who we're supposed to be like on earth. We're supposed to be like that angel. That's what we came to do. We came to be that angel, and that's what we have to become. And obviously, angel represents spirit, unconditional love, and a million other words around the world. That's the vocabulary I'm using today, but like, that's who we have to become. So anytime we're in a conflict, we have to become that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I want you, if you would, and I know that it's because I get you literally, you and I, my friend, I'm going to work with you on supporting you and writing some books, because you got some channeling to do. I wanted to ask you then about the back end part of the matrix, because this is just to give context, and I'm not just trying to talk about me, blah, 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 but just to give context, like, it is one of those things where one of my epiphanies is helping liberate me and come into being more connected to spirit, is like, oh, we are in this matrix. We are in this, which, you know, like the physical, you're saying the three elements. So we're in this physical place, but this is illusion. And, you know, like, for example, when your body starts to leave, and I've heard this, you know, multiple times, that the spirit starts to leave the body when in a near-death experience, it's like people will absolutely forget that they ever were even here. And then God will like pull them back and say, you have a life. And it's like, I have what now? And so within that realm of being in the matrix, and how the DNA, which is, I love the latter as the that makes so much sense to me. You're doing so much work just by speaking truth, like that the ladder of the DNA is connecting me into the spirit, and it can take me out of the matrix.
Out of the matrix.
Tell us about how that works, and tell us, just say anything. You're going to say it all.
You know what? Let's go down to reality. Let's go down to like being simple on the street. So I remember being in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome, right? The Alamo, where they fought, you know, the Mexican-American War back in the days, the Alamo. I don't know if you guys know about it, but it's very popular. People around the world go there. And I remember being down there. It's very tourist attraction. And there was this guy, you know, he was a religious person on the side of the road, and he's yelling and screaming, you have to get right with God, or you're going to hell. You have to go, da, 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 you know, all the things they say. And I'm like, you know, back during that time, it may put a little fear in my heart because the guy seemed evil, or maybe, you know, it wasn't comfortable, and maybe I had negative thinking. Maybe I was like, this guy's religious, he's crazy. But let's see what it looks like living outside this matrix in the spirit realm. You know, so let's go into context, because you've seen those people, and they really annoy a lot of people. They piss you off, right?
Yeah.
But if you're living in the spirit realm, unconditional love outside the matrix, what does this look like when you're in an environment like that, and this guy's screaming, you know, he's telling you where you're gonna go and all this? What does this look like? Well, this is what it looks like. If you are really walking out your identity, and you're really walking out unconditional love, and you're living outside this matrix, you would first look at him and you would see his spirit, and you would look at him with the most joy and love and compassion. And you know he's living in the flesh because of what he's saying. So you know he's not in the spirit realm, right? So you would walk up to him and your heart would be throbbing for him from within and from within him, right? And you would see everything about him. You would see his life pass between your eyes, all the things that happened in his life. You would see all the pain, if he had shoulder, back pain, if he had cancer, if he had anything. And imagine if you saw this in him and you walked up and you touched him in the spot where nobody's touched him because he's never seen love in his life. And that's why he's out on the streets. And you touched him and you knew about him that he didn't think anybody knew, and he never saw anybody compassionate for him. He would give his heart to you and he would stop what he's doing. And that's breaking out of the matrix, a circle, this circle that we can't get out of because our ego is saying, look what that guy's saying. I can't believe he's telling me I'm going to hell. He doesn't know what the Bible says. He doesn't know that there's different religions that did. See, we're not looking from within this guy and we're not helping him. And you know what? There's no difference. If I have that attitude like that, look at that guy. I can't believe what he's saying. I can't believe what he's thinking. We are actually saying the same thing he is to the teeth because the ego leads to death. And hell in the Bible is reincarnation. So all he's telling you is the exact same thing as you're saying in your mind and to him. You're being
bring it back to DNA. Bring it back to DNA. And then we'll talk about hell being reincarnation. Bring it back to DNA. How does your awareness of your DNA and connecting to your DNA liberate you from the matrix?
Well, yeah, it's just like this. It's like our DNA is our past and our future. It's like, man, I tell you what, I saw this one lady, she had a near-death experience or something, and she got to see a visual of our DNA, and she said it looked like a three-dimensional, she could see our DNA from the past to the present. It says, when you found the beginning, you have found the end. I'm sorry, I'm coming out here. When you found the beginning, you found the end. There's nothing new under the sun. What our DNA has already happened from billions of years ago, from millions of years in front of us. And the whole thing of our life is to transform this information, this vibration, our DNA into unconditional love. Because until it literally rings as one and there's no other but purity, which is unconditional love, will never be able to go outside this circle. Never. It's crazy I have a circle here. You know what I'm saying? We'll never be able to perfect it. Well, until our DNA is information. That's what we are. It's information. This information is from millions of years ago, from millions of years. Until we perfect it with good vibration, positive vibration, we'll never be able to get out of the matrix. We'll always be stuck in this ego, always be stuck in this calm mind, and it's little things, dude. It's like, well, I had that story the other day. Since it's on the top of my head, I'll just say it. I walk outside and I have a big job to do, and I do my stick shift on my column thing on gear on my truck, and it didn't work, and it was broken. And I said, you know what? I'm living. This happened because I'm living. This happens because I woke up this morning. I feel good. I'm breathing. Who cares if I have this big job? And I said, you know what? I'll go buy a brisket at the grocery store. I'll bring it back, get that, cooking. And I had all this good vibration, all this good frequency. And then I got on YouTube, which didn't show me how to fix it, but it rang a bell in my head. And I went underneath my dash and I just touched something and my truck started up and it was fixed. And I never stressed about it. So my whole morning went perfect because I knew who I was.
Yeah,
and our DNA has to line out to that. Our DNA, our information has to become unconditional love for us to stay outside of this matrix, to break out of this matrix.
Yeah,
it never will.
What I'm getting is that our DNA, like everything's a thought form, like our body's a thought form, our DNA are thought forms, like they're encoded, bits of thought forms.
Yep.
And so that is in this, and if as that is in the carnal or the physical world, the world of separation, the way to it's not turned on. The only way you can turn on your DNA so that it's actually operating optimal
Correctly.
for you. Again,
Right.
Joe Dispenza stuff, like you go into source, you go into divine, and then divine turns on your DNA.
Yes.
So it starts working in alignment and you're no longer divided against yourself.
In alignment. It's always on. But so our DNA from the million years ago and million past, right now, we're just living through this DNA information the same way every day.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
gotta break that. We have to break that information, that DNA cycle. Right now, we just keep on doing the same thing. I remember I had a guy mowing my lawn for the last 3 years. He mowed my lawn out front. And I walked up to him 2 weeks ago and I said, hey, dude, you're not going to cut my lawn anymore. I'll tell you, it's just spiritual. I said, every day is becoming the same for me. And I'm in the last 30 days, nothing changed. I got to break this cycle. And you're one way I'm going to break it. So I'm going to start mowing my own lawn. Plus, I can meditate when I mow my lawn. You know what I'm saying? So that was one way for me to break that information, that DNA that keeps me in the same roller coaster like that. So I do have to switch things up. And another thing is like do things different in the morning. If you're walking out this door, walk out another door. If you turn on this light, turn on that light and all. If you brush your teeth with your right hand, brush it with your left hand. If you take it before your shower, take it after your shower, and keep on switching it up, because our DNA gets into this position where it never wants to change. It literally just rolls us the same way forever. And that's why we have negativity in our life. Remember when you get upset, like you'll get upset in the next couple of days, you'll be like, God, why did I get upset? It's because you're computerized. Your DNA is computerized to do that. And the only way we can break that is by slowly breaking the cycle with love.
Amen.
Love will only break it.
If it's not love, it ain't real.
Nope. I said all information needs to leave. Like I remember I talked to this girl on the phone a couple days ago, and I said, if your information, your knowledge doesn't lead to love, it's not knowledge. That's how you know if it's right or wrong.
So then let us hook that into what you talked about, that hell being reincarnation. And again, we're not doing any judgments. We're just this is an understanding of perception. I just wanted you to kind of unpack that for people.
Okay, so if you go in the Bible, it says if you go to hell in the Bible, obviously it doesn't mean no fiery pit hell. How can you mash your teeth in a place that's spiritual and you don't have a body anymore, right? It's because you're mashing your teeth when you get mad during the day, right? In this flesh, in this normal life. But if you go look at the meaning, there's two meanings in hell, and one of them is fiery dumpster pit that burns 24 hours a day for eternity in Jerusalem, right? And Jesus says you're better to live there than you're better to live in this carnal mind, this ego that you have that's killing everything.
Wow.
And so what it's saying is this: when you go back and you start doing all your studies, it says it's better. When it goes to hell, it goes, and which is the fiery dumpster for eternity. What he's saying is like it's like better to be recycled than to live this ugly life, but hell is for eternity, over and over and over for eternity. You're constantly in chaos. You're constantly fighting. You're constantly in wars. You're constantly in a battle. And so what happens is it's the exact same meaning, but just like a mountain lion, they took the terms hell and made it into their view, and then other cultures made it in their feel. But if you go back and study the word and you take it back to the beginning, you're going to find out eternity just means being in the same cycle, the same patterns for over and over and over and over and over, you know? And that's why there's a verse that says, you know, it says, don't be stuck in these patterns, you know? But I don't know. It's just like, you go do you go study it yourself. I don't like to like preach and teach on this because I don't feel like it's my right, because I think everybody needs to do their own work. But if you go dig into this, you're going to find out real easy. And it's just the same thing. You just have to relive your pain over and over and over and over.
You have a gift for interpretation. You have a gift to be able to translate things. So don't discount that one thing. And then because what it did for me was I was like, oh, well, hell is separation from God. Oh, what's incarnation into the flesh? It's separation from God.
Yeah,
so
it's
it just means separation.
It's
so
it's
the same thing. So like I got it, and you just taught me that.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's what I'm saying. If someone's preaching that to you, and you get mad at them, you're both separate from God because you're using your ego, and nobody's going to win the argument. You're both living in hell.
Yes, so well said. I want to talk about miracles, and then we need to wrap up. But Linda, I want to make sure, because that was a bunch of downloads, and I see you over there beaming. So what do you have thoughts or reflections?
No, it just all rings so true. And for me, like when I think of reincarnation, for me, I guess because I remember some of mine, and even when my last life when I was murdered, it was like, oh, these are lessons. These are ways for us to experience who we truly are in different ways through these vehicles. And this morning I was thinking about, all of the different ways we experience heaven, all the different ways we experience life. And it's like, for me, the analogy is when someone cooks, and I'm a big foodie. You can have salt and pepper thrown on something, and somebody will absolutely love salt and pepper on it. I, on the other hand, have an entire 2 cabinets full of spices. And for me, it's like all of us are these spices that we throw in our experiences, and that flavor that we're experiencing here in life in the incarnations helps bring us to the whole. And I heard also this morning, the sum is greater than the parts of the whole, or the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. There we go. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Again, it's that we can't explain. We're all a part of, and each time we come here, each time we do what we're doing, we're throwing those spices in and feeling this life, and we can either figure out that we experience it in love, and we bring ourselves to that place, or we experience it in separateness and fear and anger, and that's the hell.
Can I say
that's
one
the
thing?
Hell on earth.
So like with all my supernatural encounters, like I'm totally for you. It's cool that people go back and see their past lives and future whatever. I felt so strong in my heart from my my experiences that, like, if our whole goal is to break out of the matrix, why are we talking about and teaching about hell and reincarnation? Does it exist? Yeah. Will it happen? Yeah. But my whole point is to pull people out of this circle, not to keep them in the loop. So when someone's preaching hell or reincarnation, they're both the exact same things to me. But like, that's why I feel like Jesus's teachings are so good, because he didn't preach that. He preached, I said this in John 17:3, it says, knowing love is breaking out of the matrix. That's all that matters. We really don't need to go to our past lives. You know, we don't need to go see if we had future or whatever. We just need to start living out unconditional love so we can get out of this circle. And that's the most important thing. But if people like to go and do that's cool. I'm all for it and with them. And I know you've talked about, and I think that's awesome. But I'm just saying, like, I think our whole motive is to get out of this.
Yeah, well, so yeah, to no longer be attached to it. But I would say that for some people, their awakening into oneness involves remembering past and
Exactly.
future
That's why I
lives,
said it. Yeah, you
because
bet.
it can be very beneficial, and it's like if it's serving you versus
Yeah,
it being a distraction.
it's an eye
Because
opener.
yeah, exactly. And
Awakening.
also because sometimes people are just aware of like, oh, I'm aware of my future life, my future self is visiting me in this incarnation as an ET. So
Yeah.
it's so vast and so big. I just want people to feel
Yeah,
liberated
and
within their
that
choices.
you're right, because that people who have the encounters where they get to go see their past lives, that is a reality check. That is like, wait a minute,
Exactly.
like there's more to life than just this. And so that is a stepping stone for them, just like my encounters were my stepping stone.
Yeah.
I'm not against anything. I'm just saying, like, we shouldn't be sitting there like, hey, do this so we can just get reincarnated or go to, it's all the same thing. Just let's get to the point where we find our higher self, or, go within so we can find our inner peace, so we can be out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the eventuality, and we're finding all the doors to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And awakening in all these endless ways, which is fantastic, because awakening is inevitable. And one time or another, one incarnation or another, it's inevitable, because we all have to come back to source. So that's my 2 cents. But so miracles, I wanted to just talk, because I know that you've had some dramatic things that you've seen. I kind of want to wrap it up on that. So when you are in the process of a miracle coming through you, I just wondered if you would break down that experience.
Yeah. I can break it
Just
down.
share it with
Oh,
people
man.
so people can understand how that
Okay.
is.
So I can tell you something, and I'm being dead honest when I say this. Go watch Superman. Go watch Superman. He is a normal person, and then he hears stuff and he turns into a whole different person. That's literally what it is. That's why, like, when people come to me and they're like, I need a miracle, I'm like, I can't get it until I feel it. Like, I twist into this completely different person. Oh my God, it's the greatest feeling. I call it the kingdom of heaven. I call it the kingdom of heaven. When it happens, like, you're literally floating. I'm surprised I don't float. But anyway, so like, let's just go to an encounter. This encounter, I don't feel anything until it happens right then, though. So like if a healing's going to happen, I don't feel, like, right as it's about to happen. Like, for instance, let's say this, I walk into the grocery store and there was this lady in her little scooter, and I said, hey, I said, your legs are short, your left leg's shorter, and you're having back problems. And I put my hand on her back and I said, you know what, we're going to make that go away right now. And she was hunched down like this, right? So I'm using this example. Right when I put my hand on back and I start praying over her like that, I feel like something come through my body and my mouth, like my smile, like does this, like I look like I'm freaking like on some other earth, because people like, why the hell are you smiling like that? Because like there's something goes through my body. And like, there's a true story. I have tons of these. And the lady she was hunched down like this, and I prayed over her, and she comes straight up on her cart, because she was driving a scooter in the grocery store, and she comes straight up like that, and she goes, oh my God, I haven't been able to get up like this in months. And she was saying all these, whatever she said, but I feel like this glory go through my body, and she doesn't even have to get up. Like, she doesn't even have to stand up like that. As soon as I feel that feeling, I'm like, you're healed. So when I had this testimony the other day, when I went into my dad's backyard, and we were on the porch, and this girl was sitting in a chair, and I sat down. I sat down, and my dad was next to me, and Melinda was over here, and I was sitting down, and I had my cell phone in this pocket, and then on this my left hip vibrated so violently that my heart started going boom, 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 boom. And I looked at her, and I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "Her hip is injured." And so my dad gets up and leaves the house, and I'm staring at her for 5 minutes because I didn't want to say nothing just yet, because you got that feeling of, should I say something? But anyways, my dad gets up and goes outside into the house to get something. And right when he gets up, I looked at her and I said, "Dude, you have something wrong with your hip." And she started screaming because she didn't believe I knew. And she goes, "She just fell down," and she fell down. Actually, her hip was horrible. It wasn't just hurt. She had like a disc out of place, something totally wrong. She couldn't even walk. I didn't even know this. And so
Wow.
I stood up, and because I got that vibration, I stood up and I was like, "Dude, you're going to be healed, dude." I just felt that. Like, I was so comfortable and so cocky, and I didn't even know what people say. You have to go touch them. I was about 6 to 7 feet from her when I pointed it, because I walked around the table on this side and I looked at it and I said, "You're going to be healed right now." And that's when whatever overcame her, and vibration came up one side of her leg, over her stomach and hips, and back down the other way. And she was completely healed. And then when I was inside, when, I was with my daughter was driving to her friend's house, and I was in the passenger seat, and her friend was in the back seat. I was just sitting there minding my own business, and this back of my leg just vibrated out of control, and instinctively, like a baby animal, knowing what to do in life, I turned around and said, your calf hurts," and she started going crazy. And I said, "You're going to be healed right now," and she is healed. In fact, that girl, that happened 4 years ago, and she said she's going to come over to my house this week and do the testimony, so I can, because it's a long testimony, because I got a download about her mother and her stepfather, who she's
Wow.
not with no more, and her 13-year-old son. I said something happened to him, because we met the next day, because she needed to know who I was. And so she's going to come and do the testimony, and I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel. But then other times where I'm, like I said, when I'm walking through the aisle and that lady's back her back got healed, and she got up like that. Other times, there's some other times where I guess they are different in ways, but I still do become this other person. So like, there's sometimes where I'll be like, "Oh my God, I'm feeling the anointing. I got to go to Walmart. Someone's going to get healed." And so
Wow.
I feel this something go through my body, and because my one thing about this thing that goes through your body, your confidence is so high. You're like, "I have control. People are going to get healed." But see, that's the problem, is like with like words of knowledge, or whatever you call them, when you get words about people and healings and stuff, I'm really not that type of person to step out. I have a friend who's like, "You're right, and he's going to be healed." Bam, and they get healed. His name's Nico, and he's got to be on the show. He's unbelievable. You think I'm crazy? You should see this guy. There's nobody like him. When he comes into town, we hit the streets. But anyways, like I said, is like, every situation's different, but when I feel that presence, I get this confidence and this knowing, and then when I go to the store, people are like, who do you touch?" It's so easy. You're going to see 1,000 people, but your eye's going to be drawn on somebody just like that, and you can't get them off of you. One of my coolest experiences, and I have a lot of these small experiences that don't seem that big, but like, I remember this one lady, she was like hurt in the aisle through the checkout line, and there was this big line, and I had that anointing feel. I was like feeling so good. So she's in line, and there was all these people behind her, and I cut it in line, and I came down and touched her knee, And I said, all your pain's leaving right now. And she looked up at me like this, like I was an angel, and I disappeared. And if like I had small encounters like that aren't
You
even worth talking
disappeared?
about.
You
No,
disappeared?
I just went around the aisle and just gone. I didn't
Oh,
disappear,
okay.
but I was
Okay.
just gone. Nobody could see me, you know, and I saw her face lift up, but I remember like a whole bunch of people were in line right behind her and they were all looking at me like, what are you doing? But little things like that, when you can, you know that there's all these people living in their carnal ego mind, rushing through the gas stations, rushing through the grocery stores, trying to get their food, trying to get their gas, trying to get home, trying to pick up their kids in school. And you have that feeling where you can just, life just slows down and it becomes about everybody else. And you feel that feeling, it's just a weird feeling. And it's hard to explain, but it is a different feeling.
You're doing great.
That's one thing that I can give advice, if I can give advice about people, is like just one day, like when you're going to the store today, or Walmart or Home Depot or HEB or whatever you have in Denver, wherever you have in all the places around the world, just stop for 1 second. Just stop and look around at everybody and watch everybody. They're all on a mission. And say to yourself, I don't want to be that. And just slow down your mind. I don't want to be that. Everybody, the person runs in the store and runs out. They grab their gas and they get out. And I always say this, and I hate to say this, but I say it all the time. And I say to my daughter every time, I say, are you in a rush to get reincarnated? Because that's what's going to happen.
Right.
I haven't perfected this, guys. I haven't perfected this, no. But I meditate this.
But you're living it. Yeah, you're living it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have tons of experiences. We can go for 2 hours, 3 more hours, but I go to bed every single night and I visualize, like Dr. Dispenza, whatever, how he says, visualize everything. I visualize myself walking around, floating around in the spirit, with everybody getting healed, with getting word of knowledge on everybody, and totally popping out of this bubble that we create around us. Everybody's in their own little bubble and just popping out of it and just loving on people. And I go to bed every night and I wake up every morning and I go in a dark closet and I say, God, or whatever, source, light, whatever. And I say, make me this person, get me out of this ego. And I try to just slow down and not be these people that are rushing around like robots, you know, just waiting to get reincarnated. You ever remember those money machines where you throw the money quarter in and the quarter dingles down to the bottom and the thing pushes the change off? That's all we are. A new soul drops in and another one falls off the cliff. We're nothing but, if you ever watch a video game, it says there's nothing new under the sun. And just like a camera and a TV, we have a camera and we're the TV. We're playing what's from without. Everything that's coming in. If I punch you, you're going to move. You're going to do the actions, right? Well, when you play the video game and you go all the way to the end and then you die and you have to start over, every single thing is identical to our life. And just like that machine, you drop the little baby quarter in, and an older soul falls off the cliff and dies. And you keep on doing it over and over. We have to break that cycle.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. That is what's happening. That's part of what our community calls the ascension. You can call it hot potatoes if you want, but it is what it is. It's the awakening, the ascension. The oneness, whatever it's
call what feels good to you.
The magical fudge sickle, whatever you want to call it.
I love it.
All right. Well, on that, sir, I'm going to flip our view to our gallery view. This is our Brady Bunch view, so that way we all get to, like, when we say goodbye to our lovely audience who's normally live streaming with us. But they'll get to experience this and they'll still be grateful because it's such good content. Just want to say thank you everyone who is showing up and watching the shows. We super appreciate you. And we have all of the links below, and we're going to get Mr. Luke has a TikTok that he has all of these words of wisdom on his TikTok, so we'll have that down below as well. So if you're a TikToker, it inspires me to get a TikTok account so I can check those out. And yeah, next week we are going to have Miss Etheria on Galaxy Galatheria talking about her experiences with ETs and going to an underground lab in LA. Yeah, it's wild, some wild stuff. So Luke, any final last words of love before we all give our waves, and Linda, any love that you want to share as well?
Well, yeah, I really want to repeat, I want to say this verse, Romans 12:2. It says, don't be conformed by the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So every time, I said this earlier, and I always say this, and I'll say it a billion times. When I came out of my body, I looked down at my body, and you'll say, you never knew that body. I never knew you. Every single thing that comes into this life is coming into this body, and this body is going to take that down into the dirt and dissolve. And it was never your true self. Don't be conned by that part of life. The only thing that you're ever going to keep is unconditional love. All that other stuff goes down with the body. So you have to remember that we're not this flesh. So anytime there's a tragedy, or somebody touches you wrong, or somebody hurts you, or somebody comes against you, they didn't come against you. They came against your body, and you don't keep your body, you know? So just love them, because if they came at you a way that offends you, it means that they're not living out their true identity, and they're living out the flesh, and they don't keep their flesh either. So we just have to remember who we are. We have to remember who they are. And we have to remember that if we came out of our body this second and they came out of their body this second, you would be their best friend. And that's it.
All right. That was lovely. Miss Linda?
I don't think I can add anything to that.
Yeah,
Follow that. I do want to say thank you, everyone, for continuing to support us and bringing amazing guests like Luke. Thank Kat, because he's the one that finds these amazing guests.
He's the hustler.
And he's an awesome friend, companion in so many ways, my spiritual companion in this journey. And so I want to thank you, Kat, and I want to thank Luke.
Thank you.
And thank each of you who bring so much energy to our community. And be sure to check out the links when we have them. If you've enjoyed this, please like, share, and subscribe. There's a lot of people that need to hear this. Please don't hide it. Please share.
Very well said. Very well said. All right. Thank you, everyone. We love you. We'll see you next week, hopefully on time in the live stream.
Love you guys.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.